Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brandy. If you're new here, I am a mom of 4 children under the age of 6 and under, and we homeschooled all through the preschool years. I took it very seriously as a former preschool teacher, and then I decided to enter teaching in the public school this year. And as you can see in my last video, I explained everything about why we returned to homeschooling, and you can watch that video if you're interested. Today's video is going to be about my experience teaching in the public schools, what I loved and what I did not love. So if you're interested, just keep watching. So, my experience in the public school system. I worked at an elementary school that was a Title I elementary school. That means that everybody receives free and reduced lunch. It is a very difficult, low-income population, and there are lots of behaviors. And I talked about that a little bit in my last video. If you missed it, then you can go back and watch it. Our school was different from a lot of schools in that they didn't make them put their hands by their side. A lot of these cliche things that you hear from social media where they're like, the students had to walk down the hall in a straight line with their hands by their side. They could not say a word. They had to, some of that is exaggerated and some of it is true for some schools. My experience from my principal, that was not the case. The students in our school were expected to be quiet in the hallway because learning is taking place. And another thing that I find is there's a lot of misconceptions from homeschool moms about a lot of different things. For example, recess. There's this huge misconception about public school that your child is only allowed to sit at their desk all day long. They're never allowed to play outside, and if they are, it's for a very short amount of time. That may be the case at some schools. I'm not trying to say that that is not. At our school, students are moving all day. Our math curriculum was hands-on and manipulative based, and so it was a play-based, problem-based, student-led curriculum that allowed the students to be on the carpet, allowed them to be sitting around the room. And there's a lot of flexible seating options in public school where it's not like it was maybe when you were a child. And I know this is not the case in every school, but I was in a very low income school. And even in my school, teachers provided those things. So it wasn't administration. It was teachers saying, okay, I want to make sure that students who have ADHD are able to fidget, are able to sit in these different alternative seating, and are able to give a little bit of flexibility. So in math, we were up and moving. We had brain breaks, we had recess, and we had specials. So during specials, you're up, you're walking down the hallway to the next thing, and you're doing PE, you're doing art, you're doing music. We had piano lab. So it's not this scary, awful prison cell type of situation where your kid is sitting down all day. They are not allowed to move. That is simply not true. And my sister is a public school teacher at a very good school as well. A lot of times we are given this image of students having to do these active shooter drills and be up underneath their desks huddled in fear. It is not like that. We did have quarterly, once per quarter, fire drill, an active shooter drill. We didn't say to the students, this is an active shooter drill. If somebody comes in shooting, guns blazing, this is what you do. That's not how you communicate to these children. Child psychologists are utilized in order to make sure that students are prepared but not scared. And that was kind of the theme at our school. So for example, we said if there is an emergency, and someone is in the school that is not allowed to be here and it becomes an emergency situation, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get against the wall, and we're going to turn the lights off and lock the doors. It was never scary during those brief drills that would last less than a minute or two. Made those conversations scary, and no teacher that I knew did as well. Nobody wants to scare a child. Another fear of a lot of homeschooling parents is the agenda. There's this agenda where they're trying to teach your child about all of this nefarious stuff, and they're trying to infiltrate your child's mind with all of this demonic, horrible stuff. I'm here to let you know that that is a vast, enormous, imagined hyperbole. Like, that is just over the top dramatic. Now, I'm sure that there are teachers out there who break this norm, and that's why they're on the news. That's why they're making social media. That's the reason why it's highlighted. Good things are happening in classrooms 10 to 1, but you're only going to hear about that 1%. Public school teachers are focused on the task at hand. And they have an enormous, very taxing, very hard, very low paid job. And it is not with the intent of infiltrating your child's mind. Many teachers are so focused on the standards of that state that they don't have time to be chalking it up and sitting back and talking about things that don't matter. So this is a little all over the place because I didn't plan this video. I wanted to speak from the heart. Okay, so those things were not the things that I disliked about public school. Having my children in public school had many, many pros. So what I liked about it was so we could go to piano lab, they could go to PE. Alexa was signed up to take a karate class when I pulled her out that was being offered by our school because of a grant that the PE teacher worked hard to get. There's science fair, there's book fairs. I love the diversity of the tasks that students are given. I loved teaching. I would be standing in front of my class teaching, and I would literally feel God. I would get chill bumps. I would start preaching. I loved to teach. I could feel that. And many, many teachers that I encountered were there because they too had the passion and calling and love for teaching. Even teachers who have been there 20, 30 years, still buying things for their classroom, still buying things for their students, still getting things for their birthdays, still pouring into these kids and showing up for these kids. So the demonic picture that you have of a public school teacher trying to infiltrate your child is simply not true, okay? I was a public school teacher. I loved it. I left not from my own volition. I would still be teaching right this minute if I could. I do think it takes a special person to work with behavior children. There was a child in one of the classes that I didn't teach personally, but I made a connection with this student who her mother told her that she was going to put her up for adoption for Christmas. So that morning, the student came to school. She smacked another student. She was being mean. She was being awful. And she sat down because she had silent lunch. She had gotten in trouble. She sat down and she threw her lunch across the cafeteria. And I saw it. And her teacher got up and was storming over to her. And I got up and I walked over to her calmly and I sat down beside her. And I was like, I got it. Because that teacher had sent her to me several times to help her calm down, to help her with her anger, to help her with her emotions. And I said, sweetie, what's going on with you today? I said, now, Mr. Josh, our janitor, is going to have to clean up all of that. What were you thinking? Why did you let yourself get so out of control that you would throw your lunch? Now what are you going to eat? Now what are you going to do? And I said, what happened? Think back to your morning. What happened? Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? And I was looking her in her eyes when she said it. When she said, my mom told me that she didn't love me and that she was putting me and my brother up for adoption for Christmas. And if you had heard it coming from her mouth, you would know just how heartbreaking that was and how it crushed her spirit for the day and how it defeated her to feel like her mom didn't love her. And I said, sweetie, was your mom mad when she said that? And she said, no. I said, well, sometimes when you're struggling financially, I said, you actually can get a part of this program. It's called Adopt a Child. And I said, was your bags packed by the door? She said, no. I said, okay, I don't think your mom meant adopt in that way. I think she meant that maybe she may be signing you up for this program. And by the way, I did get her signed up for the Angel Tree program, so this story worked out okay. I don't know. Her mom was mean. Her mom had cussed out people at the school, her teacher several times. That's why her teacher would send her to me because she didn't even want to deal with her or her mom. Her mom was crazy. And so I'm sitting here hugging this child, comforting her. She's crying her eyeballs out. I'm explaining it to her. She walked away feeling better. She helped me clean up the mess. She went back to her table. She said she was sorry to her teacher and was able to resume her day. That is the hard work of being a teacher in a low-income school. I'll give you one more example. There was one day where this 5th grade teacher sent her student down to 4th grade. His name was Reggie. And she said, I can't handle him. He got to go. He got to get out of my class. And I talked to her. I said, you know what? I knew that he had been neglected. I knew that he had been abused. I knew that he had been mistreated. I knew that his sister was in 3rd grade and sleeping in class all day because they did not get adequate sleep. They did not get adequate nutrition. They are hanging on by a vine. These kids are coming to school with 2T clothes on and their stomachs hanging out and their legs with holes and their shoes with holes because they have nothing but neglect. The neglect was absolutely disgusting. The hair, everything about this child was neglected. And I told him, I said, I know what you're going through because I was there. I was the child that was going to school every day worrying that somebody could smell me because my clothes were dirty. Digging through the bottom of a clothes hamper because my clothes were dirty and I had nothing clean to wear. I said, I have been where you are, and guess what? You're going to have to make a very hard choice every day. Your anger inside is valid. You get to feel that. Your life is hard. It's very difficult. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, God, they don't want me to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this. God placed you here for a reason. He could have put anybody on this earth. Ooh, I'm getting chill bumps talking about it. I said he could have given anybody in your mother's womb, and he chose you. You have something to do here. Just the way you say your name sounds intelligent. Just the way you say your name is articulate. I said, you have a right to be here. Your life is going to be hard, but you're not always going to be a 10-year-old boy. One day you're going to be able to wake up and say, I made it out of that, and my children will never make it through that. They'll never have to go through that. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to forgive my mom. I'm going to do everything I need to do to get there. And you're going to have to wake up and make that hard choice, because there's people choosing death every day. And I want you to choose life. You're on this path where you're with these friends and they're making bad choices. And I want you to go the other way, because I can tell that there is something in you that is going to be able to make it out of this. And that child was boo-hooing and crying. I hugged him. He stayed with me in third grade the rest of that day. His teacher thought it was going to be a shameful thing to send him down to third grade. No, I put him to work helping these third graders with their math, being my assistant for the day. I filled him up, and every single day after that, he came by my classroom and gave me a hug and said, good morning, Miss Williams. He pointed to me one day and said, Miss Williams, I stayed awake all day just for you. Yes. I stayed awake all day just for you. And I said, and I showed up today just for you. I love those students so much you can't even imagine. Okay. What I did not like about public school teaching was everything else. Because of this frenzy to get students up to standard, up to code, so to speak, you would have this onslaught, this overwhelm of approaches. So they would say, all right, let's take this math curriculum out. Let's put this math curriculum in. Okay, we're piling in a new math curriculum. Then they're like, okay, for these level of students, for these low students, we need to do 95%, which is this reading readiness program. And we're doing letters as teachers to make sure that we are learning to teach correctly. And then for this tier of students, we're using a whole different, we're using Dibbles, we're using West Virginia Phonics. We are using so many different curricula to meet these students' needs that it is almost, we're spreading ourselves so thin that we're not good at anything. If we were just focused on reading, writing, and math, and we were not so much trying to be, okay, this student is so low, they could be considered EC. So we're having to basically be EC teachers in the class, the EC blended, where you have autistic students, you have very low aptitude students who in the class with very, very high students, and you're having to scaffold up and make it harder for these students and scaffold down and make it much, much easier for these students. And meanwhile, you feel like you're just not accomplishing anything. And so what I hated about the public schools and what I hated about teaching was the constant testing. The testing is exactly what it seems like. In kindergarten, the first thing that they did was test Alexa. And of course, she's testing way off the charts. And so as soon as they get that information, they're like, okay, good. We don't have to worry about you. And so they get Alexa doing stuff to help the other low students and help in, but Alexa's not growing. Like Alexa is not the focus. And that was a huge problem for me, because it was like, it would be week after week, report card after report card, and I would get these reports back, and they would be like, oh, yeah, she's still testing high. She's still well above grade level. She's still, but it's like, it was almost like there was no focus or attention made to her. And so even when she would struggle with something like addition and subtraction, I was not confident that they were even able to pay attention to that and help her, because they were so used to her being the smart person in the class. Charlotte Wesley's class was so much behaviors and so much interruption, the teacher said that she could barely get through a lesson. So that brings me to another point. There is not enough services for students with behavioral and psychological and emotional issues at the school because of funding. And the schools who are struggling the most need the most resources to be able to do better. And it seemed like a lot of times those students are the ones who are forgotten about the most. I loved the students. I love the students in every class. The low students, that's another thing. Like, I wanted to be a change maker in the school when I came in, because when I heard them referring to students as low, as if they are their test scores, that bothered me tremendously. That is what every teacher in the school was saying, low. And even in the staff meeting, I was like, I do not like that we are calling these students low instead of saying their test scores are low. And I can tell you that my students, when I was teaching in my third grade class, had exceeded growth. And that's because I will be honest and tell you, a lot of the times, the things that they were asking me to do, no, I was not spreading myself thin a million different ways. I did what was proven and I did what worked, and those students were learning to read. And that was so important, that I can tell to any teacher, new teacher that is going into a teaching situation. Don't assume that the district is going to know what is best for your students. Sometimes you may have to be brave when that door is closed and say, all right, you don't know your letter sounds. They're telling me to teach you main idea and plot and characters, and you don't even know how to sound out a word, baby. We're going to learn how to sound out these words. And that's exactly what I would do. I was a very effective teacher because I knew what it took to teach a baby and a child to read. And I knew what it took. And it takes fun. It takes engagement. If you don't have those students engaged, you can forget it. There's an equal balance of love and discipline that has to take place in the classroom. My students knew that I did not play, absolutely. And I spoke to them in their language. A lot of teachers that I saw, and this is one of the main things that I saw, there is a huge mismatch between the way the student looks in the school and the staff. So I was the only Black teacher in third grade. There were very few Black teachers, even though the principal was Black. But one thing that I loved was I was able to say, turn it off right now. I'm able to talk to them in a way that is their culture. They are receiving what I'm saying, and they know I love them. I'm outside, I'm zipping up their coats, I'm putting on their hoods, I'm giving them hugs, I'm bringing them clothes when they don't have it, I'm raising money for the book fair if they don't have it. I was in there doing everything I could to ensure these children knew that I loved them as if they were my very own children. And there is a big mismatch in culture and love. I do believe that anybody can be a wonderful teacher, but when you're dealing with a very tough, low income population and your approach is just so like, there were some teachers that would be like, I've had it with your attitude. Go sit outside. It was just like, there wasn't, I don't know. It's hard to explain. That connection was not there. But so I do think there needs to be more diversity in public schools to match the population of the students that are there. And I know that it's a challenge, that they want more diversity, but for many reasons there isn't. Okay, so things that I did not like, the testing, and then also the constant amount of unpaid work teachers were required. Now, I got my degree in public administration, which is the administration of public goods, whether it be teaching, firefighting, police, government, local government was my degree. So I understand public service values. There's going to have to be a population of people in this world that make sacrifices. If you are not willing to make sacrifices for the public good, if you have the TikTok mentality of, if I'm not paid for it, I'm not doing it, I'm setting healthy boundaries in my life, that is great, that is good. Just know public service is not for you. Just like a nurse cannot say, just like all nurses cannot say, I'm not working in the hospital on Christmas Day because it's Christmas, and then you got a whole hospital of people dying. Just like police officers can't say, oh, I'm not going to work because this is a bad neighborhood and you have people dying. So too do the children of this nation depend on public school teachers to have public service values. And there are many teeny boppers graduating right now, Gen, whatever they are, that are saying, I'm not working after. And granted, I understand and I appreciate and I also respect to a certain degree setting boundaries. Absolutely, you have to. You can't work yourself to death. I told them from the beginning, I have 4 children. They matter to me. At the end of the day, I have to be able to get off of work and pour into them. After they went to bed, though, I was up lesson planning. And unfortunately, public service, these children rely on that because if not us, who? If not now, when? You can't get it all done in 8 hours. You can't be teaching all day and planning all day. And that brings me to another point, though, of things I did not like. At our school, we were not given duty-free lunch, so we were not allowed to have lunch on our own by ourselves. We had to watch our class and sit with our class while we were eating. And we also did not have a planning period. Tuesday meeting, Wednesday meeting, Thursday meeting. When are we supposed to be offering up? And I would tell them this in the staff meetings. I was like, you guys are coaching us during these meetings to make our lessons more effective, to make our language arts and math lessons more effective, to bring in more engagement, to bring in more props, to bring in all this stuff. And yet you give us no time to plan it. So either we're sacrificing our mental health at home, we're sacrificing our family time at home, we're sacrificing some time because we don't get a planning period. We're in these meetings learning how to plan a lesson. And every teacher is in there. And these PLC meetings is what they're called. And you get these coaching visits from the people who created the curriculum, a coaching visit. And meanwhile, you never have time to plan a lesson. So therefore, you have to go home and bring your work home to plan a lesson. And like I told them, you guys want us to serve up a Thanksgiving meal, the preparation of a Thanksgiving meal, and really we just got time for Hot Pockets. We got time for Totino's Pizza because we don't have time. You take away our planning time, teaching us, and give us no additional time. PLC meetings are ridiculous. The incessant requirement of teachers to sacrifice everything and to say, we don't have a right. So for example, they would say, you have to be here for the after school concerts. You have to be here for the music performances. You have to be here for the drama club. You have to be here for your meeting after school for whatever committee you're on. You have to be after school for training. It was completely ridiculous, the amount of unpaid work we were just supposed to smile and bear. Meanwhile, if we were able to have the freedom and flexibility to teach the way we know how as competent teachers, then we would be able to make the growth. And I understand why they give all this training and why they have all of this testing. It's out of fear. There's a very fear-based approach where the teachers, you've probably heard this a million times, the teachers are afraid of the administrators are afraid of the state, and it just comes, and everybody it's like this trickle down of fear, and they place all of that on the backs of teachers, and not to mention everything you have to do to teach in a day. While I was working in, there was a lot of teaching to and managing to the very, 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 very bottom. And my children were not being served in that setting. My heart and soul was served in that setting. I would probably never teach at a high income, good quality school. That is not what I would want at all. Just because I feel that low income kids need and deserve good teachers. And so my experience, while not perfect, did have so many ups, like making friendships with other adults and staff members, like feeling fulfilled. Every day when I woke up, I felt like, yes, I'm ready to go to work. I'm ready. And I love homeschooling my kids. And so maybe God is doing a work on me to shift back to homeschooling and to shift my passion, because being back home, I have enjoyed teaching my kids. I have enjoyed being with them every day. I don't know what God has in store for me. I know that education and teaching, whether it be my own kids or public school kids, will always be my passion and my first love. If you're watching this and you're wondering, should you be a public school teacher? I would say that you have to think about, are you intrinsically motivated by public service values, doing the greater good, sacrificing so that you can make a change in your community, helping the next generation of learners? Or are you extrinsically motivated? Are you motivated by money, the prestige, or the benefits that come along from the state, the benefits package, health insurance, dental? If you're extrinsically motivated, you will make it probably 5 months in this job. If you are intrinsically motivated, you can make it 30 years. And so it really depends. If you have that intrinsic motivation to make a change, to teach children and love them and help them to get to the next level in their life so that they can come back and thank you in 30 years, then that is what's going to drive you through the good, the bad, and the ugly. The value that teachers have in society is low. Some people think we're glorified babysitters. Some people think that we don't deserve increased pay. Some people think, what do you even need all this a pay increase for? You don't deserve it. You don't even do anything but sit in a classroom all day. And some people know the hard work that it takes, because teachers are paid very, 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 very low. Teachers were paid what we work in terms of trainings, in terms of extracurricular activities, teaching in the classroom, weekend responsibilities. We would be paid in the hundreds of thousands if we were paid for the work that we do. Anyway, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation is very big. If you feel that you want to impact the lives of children, but you're afraid to work with low income students because of the behaviors and everything, then I would say try to find teaching in a good school district that has good ratings, because you can still do both. There's so many videos where they say, I quit teaching. I couldn't stand the students and their disrespect. I couldn't stand the teacher and their disrespect. Maybe we need to look deeper. These children were stuck at home for years with a pandemic, with no friends. Some stuck at home with no food, having to pick up food and walk to the bus to where they were delivering packaged food to them. Because guess what? Whether they came to school or not, they had to eat, and they weren't eating at home. So if you're looking for a paycheck, it's not the job for you. But if you're looking to make a difference, maybe it is. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it inspired you. And if not, oh well, find something else to do with your life. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.